Hi, I'm Don Hummer, the coordinator of the Master of Arts in Criminal Justice program here at Penn State Harrisburg. I've been here for 12 years now, university teaching for over 20. And we're excited because we just revamped this program that's now 15 years old, just this academic year. Some new changes to it, incorporating some of our skills from within the School of Public Affairs. And we'd like to talk about it today.
And I am Mitchell Patterson, the Associate Director for Graduate Admissions here at Penn State Harrisburg. I have the dubious distinction to recruit students from all areas as it relates to master's degrees and doctoral degree programs. But today, we're going to have the Master's in Criminal Justice featured by Dr. Don Hummer.
Okay.
The program is offered solely at our campus here at Penn State Harrisburg. For those of you who are not from the area, the Harrisburg area is the fastest growing metropolitan area in Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia. In fact, last year, 2016, Cumberland County, which is the county just across that bridge, or the bridge in this picture, across from the Capitol, was the fastest growing county in all of Pennsylvania. So our campus itself is reflecting that growth. This year, we've celebrated the 50th anniversary of Penn State Harrisburg, and we had many alumni on campus to see some of the changes and the updates that we have. And many of them remarked that they could not believe this was the same campus they attended 10 or 20 years ago. We have several new buildings. Many buildings have been updated, new dining options, residence options. Our campus itself is reflecting the growth of our area. In addition, we have performance and lecture spaces where we're beginning to attract nationally known and internationally known speakers. We have a lecture series with PNC Bank in our new Student Enrichment Center. And the activities on campus are beginning to diversify and expand, just given the additional space and opportunities that we have here. But let me get specifically to our new MACJ program. As I said, this program was begun in 2002. And as many programs will do after a decade or so, we took time to revamp and restock where we were with this program. The field had changed, obviously. Criminal justice is an ever expanding and dynamic enterprise. And we redid the curriculum based on not only the present needs of the field and students, but also what we think is going to happen going forward. Also, Penn State as a university, the graduate school, also updates its requirements and things that it wants within academic master's programs, which the MACJ is. And so we had to reflect those changes as well. So what we ended up with, beginning in January of 2017, was a 30-credit program that requires a capstone writing project, either a traditional 6-credit thesis or a 3-credit master's paper. Now, sometimes students ask me right off the bat, what is the difference between a thesis and a master's paper? And the easiest answer to that is simply that a master's paper requires everything that a thesis requires except the collection and analysis of original data. A master's paper can be thought of as more of a policy piece. It emphasizes the current state of the knowledge in a particular area and puts forth or posits policy recommendations for a given issue or topic. So there's no research methods or data to analyze. It's more of, this is what we know, and this is what we can do with it to put a policy into place to impact a particular trend or issue. So a student will have to complete one of those to graduate. We retained the core courses within the curriculum that have been there now for 15 years. And those are seen on this slide, CRIMJ 500 through 504, the original 5 CRIMJ graduate courses that incorporate theory, research methods, statistics, organization and management, and policy. We think those courses have served students well that have graduated from our program. We've really fine-tuned them to a degree that they're a well-oiled machine, and they make up for half of the overall program. Now, what's new is that students also have to complete a 9-credit concentration. This concentration is completely self-directed, but that doesn't mean a student is left on their own. With their graduate advisor, we develop with the student a 9-credit core of courses that match the student's needs, the available courses within the school and the college. And basically, we listen to what students want to do with their degree and match them with courses that will best facilitate that. On the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the concentrations that we recommend. We put a few together as examples for students to follow because we think those are some of the most popular concentration tracks that students will take. But before that, I also want to talk about transfer credits, because sometimes new students say, well, I started a degree a couple of years ago and I did 1 semester and I have 9 credits. What can I do with that? Well, if you started a degree related to criminal justice, there may be courses that you took that could substitute for a core course or a concentration course. That would be decided on an individual basis. If you started something external to criminal justice, but as part of your interest area, those courses could possibly count toward your concentration. So that's something to discuss with the admissions folks and those of us within the program, that there are avenues that can be used, that a degree that was started could be incorporated into this one. But let me talk now a little bit about the concentrations. These 3 concentrations that you see presented here were put together specifically because of our past knowledge of student interests within the major. Students always had to complete elective credits as part of the MACJ, but they were essentially free electives. Students could pick a variety of different courses to meet the number of credits required for graduation. And what we wanted to do as a program was to standardize those and say, okay, here is a potential interest area for you. Here are courses that would, benefit you if you took them. Suggestions for registration, but also as talking points. If you say, okay, I'm interested in policy analysis, planning, and evaluation. Well, here are 4 courses that we think would be good, but there are others as well. Penn State is a huge university that has many options available for students that sometimes they aren't aware of or familiar with because they haven't asked the questions. Our colleagues at University Park have been very amenable to allowing students to take a course there, take a course online from one of the programs that they offer. So there are different avenues available for students other than just coming to our campus to take all of their courses. And what we'd like to do with these concentrations is know what our students want out of the degree and help them get in those courses that will benefit them the most. That having been said, these 3 concentrations are focused within the School of Public Affairs, which is our governing school for criminal justice. And they are listed essentially in order of popularity, or what popularity we think they'll have. A majority of our students tend to take the CRIMJ system components concentration because it is a CRIMJ major. And those 4 courses are ones that students tend to want to be in because they focus on the 4 subsystems of criminal justice: police, courts, corrections, and juvenile justice. So we do think that most students will gravitate toward those. And they are fairly straightforward for scheduling as well, because we tend to offer 2 of the core courses each semester and 1 elective, all on different nights. So that makes the scheduling process very easy for students coming in. The School of Public Affairs, though, also has a very well-regarded public administration program. And over the years, students have kind of gone back and forth between criminal justice and public administration in terms of enrolling in courses. And in working with the public administration faculty, we talked about some of the things that we wanted to do with our newly revamped program. And I spoke with the coordinators in public administration and said, if we have a student in criminal justice who's interested in policy analysis and evaluation, what courses would you recommend that they take? And so in conjunction with them, we came up with this list of 4. Now, again, there are other courses in our programs as well, but these are just recommendations. And we did the same thing with Homeland Security. We have a growing Homeland Security program within School of Public Affairs, talked with the faculty, and came up with what is essentially a hybrid between criminal justice and Homeland Security, because the concentration incorporates both straight criminal justice courses as well as more general Homeland Security courses. And what's interesting about that concentration is Homeland Security was conceived of as an online program, but now they are offering more of their courses in residence due to the popularity, especially at the undergraduate level. We have many undergraduate criminal justice majors who minor in Homeland Security. And one of the interesting things about that is that graduate students in recent years have used Homeland Security courses within their program online, and it saves them a night of commuting. It allows them to complete work at a different pace, and it's just more convenient for their schedules and their lifestyles. As many of our students are in service, they do work full-time jobs. So it's something to keep in mind, because the second concentration, policy analysis, planning, and evaluation, mostly public administration courses, many of those are also online. And I think in the very near future, we will have CRIMJ courses online. So there are going to be a lot of options available for students. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to talk about your wants, your needs, your expectations of this program with your graduate advisor when you're admitted, because there's more of these options available to you than probably meet the eye. So since I mentioned admission, maybe I should talk a little bit about the requirements, and Mitchell can jump in if I miss anything. For the most part, what we like to see are students with a GPA, a minimum GPA of 3 over their junior and senior years. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't have a 3.0 in your junior and senior years, you have no chance of being admitted. There are other options available. One is to take the graduate record exam, the GRE, as satisfactory scores can compensate for a GPA that you think might be lower than we seek. And another benefit to taking the GRE is that if you're seeking funding, it's a requirement. Every student that is funded by the department with a graduate assistantship or a fellowship has to take the GRE. That's a graduate school requirement. So you can almost take care of 2 tasks with 1 exam. And just in my case, as the coordinator of the program, I always like to see students who have taken the GRE. It just gives us one more piece of information to assess that student's background and abilities and help them out within the program. In terms of funding, this year, it is fairly competitive, but criminal justice does have 2 of the fellowship students at Penn State Harrisburg, Button-Waller fellowships. They are competitive across the college, and our program has 2 of those students incoming. And what's interesting about that is, unlike a graduate assistantship, which is for 1 year, a fellowship is guaranteed for 2 years. And so that those students who are awarded those fellowships basically have funding for their entire master's program here at Penn State Harrisburg. Again, it is a fairly competitive thing with undergraduate transcripts, GRE scores, letters of recommendation, things like that. And we also, you see a check mark there on a brief 2-page statement of purpose or writing sample. I don't want students to overlook that and think that that's just a form letter. We have a 3 faculty member admissions committee, and we read those in depth. We want to make sure that students are coming into our program that we can match what we do with what the students' expectations are. Because occasionally we'll have students who, write their statement of purpose and think maybe they're better suited to public administration or Homeland Security or a separate program. And we'll tell them that. And because we want to keep our program's always been fairly small, but it's very hands-on and very one-on-one between faculty and students. We take, in some cases, personal responsibility for getting students through the program. Every faculty member usually has no more. I'm the coordinator. I have the most advisees, and I think I have 5. And if a faculty member has 2, 3, 4, or 5 advisees, we work with them closely for the 2 years that they're here and try to ensure that they're getting everything out of the program that they expect. And we often refer back to that statement of purpose in order to do that. There is no application deadline. It's a rolling admissions, but we do request that students seeking funding apply as early in the calendar year as possible. We have to get recommendations to the graduate school for funding decisions in early March. So the earlier we have your application after the 1st of January, the faster we can get you into our pool. So what will students do when they're here besides study very hard and do lots of reading and write papers? Again, we try to meet the individual needs of each student in the program. I would say over the past 10 years that half of our students have aspired to go on to further education in criminal justice onto doctoral programs, and the other half are either pre-service students who want to go work in the field of criminal justice or are already working in criminal justice and are seeking advancement in their present career. So we kind of guide both sets of those students in similar but somewhat different ways. The students that are on the academic track, we tend to involve very heavily in research with faculty, in doing publications with faculty, and conference presentations at some of the major criminal justice scholarly societies that you see mentioned there, the American Society of Criminology and the Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences, as well as smaller regional meetings. I don't think in the time that I've been here that a student who has sought admission to a doctoral program has not done one of those things with a faculty member, either presented or published something, or at least attended a conference with a faculty mentor. So we have a very good track record of making sure that our students are prepared scholarship-wise for doctoral study. For those students who are pre-service, we strongly encourage an internship. Many of those students will not write a master's thesis, they will do the master's paper project, which means that they have one available 3-credit elective during their 30-credit program. We try to guide those pre-service students specifically toward internships. Now, this is one aspect of our program that I think we have not emphasized as much as we could have over the years, but with the new requirements, we are doing that, and we're doing that in a few ways. Number one, we have that 3 credits set aside. We really think that those students who have never worked in the field should most definitely use those 3 credits for practical educational experience. But in order to do that, students have to be matched with agencies willing to sponsor them and take them on. And so we've worked with our School of Public Affairs Board of Advisors to list internship experiences, to get personal connections with those who work in the field locally, statewide, and as well as federally. And the response has been tremendous. As of right now, we have more agencies seeking graduate level interns than we have students to take those positions. So as we go forward into the next academic year, we're going to work very aggressively at steering students toward those internships early in their program, so that maybe between their first and second years, they'll take 3 credits over the summer and complete one of these internships. This is just a great way of getting students those practical experiences, as well as building relationships within our program in the school with those agencies immediately surrounding us. So we have a lot of momentum going that way, and we want to keep that going. To that end, there are also some fun activities that we have available for students, both at the graduate and undergraduate level. The CRIMJ Club, I believe, is in its 7th or 8th year, sponsoring events and speakers and trips, tours of local facilities. We have the Criminal Justice Honor Society that is open to undergraduate and graduate students. And the network that we have with our graduates of the program is great as well. Every once in a while, we have a graduate of the program who works in the field of criminal justice come back and do a summer course at the undergraduate level. This year we have an MACJ graduate who is a captain in a local police department, and he's going to teach an undergraduate course in criminal investigations. So we like to do those kinds of things to keep our MACJ alumni in touch with us as a program and with their school, as well as share their knowledge. Internships are one way to do that, but there's a wealth of knowledge from our graduates that we want them to be able to give back to those students coming up. All right, so what have those graduates done? Compiled a list of where our MACJ graduates have ended up since 2003. I had a whole printout at the beginning of the year from institutional research of every single graduate, and we tried to cull together as much as we could. We got most of their information, and we put that into 4 general categories. As I said a little while ago, maybe about 40% have gone on to doctoral programs at schools like SUNY Albany, George Mason University, American University, Temple University, and Sam Houston State University, just to name a few. Some of them are now professors. Some of them are now professors in our program. So we have, again, sort of incorporated that idea of taking our alumni's knowledge and imparting it back to the students coming up. In fact, to be specific, 3 of our 11 faculty members here at Penn State Harrisburg have degrees from Penn State Harrisburg. So we're kind of proud of that. We also have probably another 40% are senior officials in the various agencies of criminal justice, both at the local, state, and federal levels. They work in institutional corrections, probation and parole, the U.S. Capitol Police, Pennsylvania State Police, and too many other agencies to even mention. Throughout central Pennsylvania, we have alumni in virtually every criminal justice related agency: the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, the state or the Commonwealth Department of Corrections. everywhere now. And I think that's shows the strength of our program, as well as the positions that some of these individuals are in. Many of them are in research-oriented positions, and I believe that reflects our emphasis within the program. Even those students who are not going to go on to a doctoral program or are never going to run statistical analysis in a true academic way, they are going to work with information, they are going to work with data, they are going to create knowledge that's used for policy in the positions that they enter. And I've been told anecdotally that agencies like to have our graduates because they're able to do those things. No student leaves here without a knowledge of methodology and data analysis and policy formulation and theory. And they're able to use that. I think that's what differentiates us a little bit from other programs, in that we think that students who take a master's degree from Penn State Harrisburg in criminal justice should be able to be producers of knowledge to one extent or another. And they're using those skills out in the field. And that's really where we want to go moving forward, is continuing to produce those high quality graduates, to continue to foster those relationships with local agencies, and to continually improve our program and make it adapt to the needs of the field and the needs of the students going forward. Thank you for your time.
All right. Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Don Hummer. That was a wonderful and extremely informative presentation about the master's degree in criminal justice. We're going to move into a second segment, into this informative discussion that we're having this morning with Dr. Hummer, where I'll ask a few questions. And for the viewers out there, please chime in through social media, or you can send an email to ric1, RIC1 @psu.edu, where we can take those questions and field them directly to Dr. Hummer while he's here with us this morning. So a lot of the questions that I have, Dr. Hummer, is really tailored through my experience networking and traveling on behalf of Penn State Harrisburg. As I mentioned earlier, navigating and marketing all of our programs, but we're talking specifically about the criminal justice program today. Again, a wonderful presentation about our great source of information for the last 15 years as our program has stood strong here in the Capital Region. But can we talk a little bit about, shifting gears, what's really formulating today among consumers of higher ed, or how can I get as many degrees within the shortest period of time? So I'm alluding to the Integrated Undergraduate Graduate Degree Program, or better known as an IUG, where it features both baccalaureate and a master's degree in 5 years. So can you sort of give us a little framework about what that would look like to a prospective student who's considering Penn State Harrisburg?
Sure. The Integrated Undergraduate and Graduate Program allows students to count 12 credits towards both their undergraduate and graduate degrees. In essence, with the new 30 credit program in the MACJ, what it will allow is for students admitted to that program, and it is competitive admissions into the integrated program. We do not take just anybody. At this point, I believe the minimum required GPA is going to be a 3.25, and the student has to apply. But it will allow those students to complete both the undergraduate BS degree and the graduate MA degree in 5 calendar years total. So if a student comes in, is admitted to the IUG, finishes their senior year, they will be taking a couple of graduate level courses during their senior undergraduate year. And those courses will count both toward their undergraduate and then toward their master's. So they come into their first year, technical first year of their master's program, with 12 credits, right, leaving them with 18 to finish, and that is 9 credits in the fall and 9 credits in the spring. This is a practice that is common at other universities, and it's something that Penn State has been emphasizing for a while now, and our degrees were targeted because we are the only master's degree offering in criminal justice in the Penn State system. University Park does offer a program in criminology at the master's level. But as far as criminal justice goes, we have 14 campuses that offer undergraduate criminal justice, but Harrisburg's the only one that offers the master's degree. So we envision that as serving not only our students, undergraduate students here at Harrisburg, but also undergraduate students from around the Penn State system.
Excellent, excellent. Shifting gears again, back to the experience, the hands-on experience that students are getting. You shared a lot about the tracks and concentrations that students are on here at Penn State Harrisburg. But aside from the anecdotal information, what's the practicum? What is it that they're learning, and then the application to learning? Is that happening for students in the program here?
It absolutely is. And again, we have to talk about the students sort of in those two separate groups, the more academic track and those who are going to be working within the field. Because our interns typically do their internship in the summer between their first and second year, the way we like to envision the program is that in their first year, they have the foundation courses. 4 of the 5 core courses in theory and data and organization and management policy. And then when they go out into their practical experience, they're seeing those things in action in the agencies with which they're working. Then when they come back for their second year and they're preparing to do their capstone project, they're applying what they've learned through reading and studying, and also what they've learned by working hands-on in the field. So they're merging those two things to do their finished product. The master's paper itself, we like to see as both how much content knowledge you have in the area, but also what did you learn when you were applying that to police practice and policy, or the supervision and treatment of offenders, or planning criminal justice initiatives in a community.
Right. How
did those tenets of basics of our knowledge come together to help you in those actual endeavors that you worked on during that summer internship? And then those in the academic track, the hands-on is really research. And in addition to projects where students are supervised by faculty members and produce an end product, we view the student's thesis as potentially their first lead authored publication. I would say that in the years that I've been here, probably 3/4 of students who complete a master's thesis publish that in an academic journal with them as a lead author and their faculty members as second authors. So they were responsible for not only completing the thesis project, but once they're done, and many of them were then in doctoral programs, they were responsible for taking that thesis and whittling it down to its essence, a 30-page journal article, and submitting it through the academic process like they'll do for the rest of their career. And really, to me, that is the most hands-on experience a student can have. If that's their chosen career, the fact that they're going to go through this process, whereas historically, many students didn't begin publishing things until after they finished their doctorates.
Sure.
Our graduates, almost across the board, tend to go into their doctoral programs with publications already in their name, certainly publications and presentations. So they've got that head start and that jump start. And if anything could be said to be a calling card for our program, I think that's been it. That when our students apply to agencies or they apply to doctoral programs, those agencies and programs know what they're getting from us. They know the kinds of students, they know the training they've gotten, they know the people that those students have worked with, and they can see on paper the accomplishments that those students have. And I know there's always a lot of talk about growing program numbers and things like that, but really our program I would always like to see at a fairly small level because it's really our strength. It differentiates us, I think, from many other programs that I'm familiar with. And in the end, I think it's best for both the students and the discipline that we have a small, tight group of students who are best able to do the kinds of things that really not a whole lot of students can do.
Mm-hmm. So the emphasis is quality.
Absolutely.
And over the quantity.
Absolutely.
So it's done, it sounds like intentionally to have a modest number, because the fact that the faculty-student ratio, that's an unprecedented number with a faculty 5-to-1 with advisees versus an advisor.
Absolutely.
So are there any resources that's tied into career placement? Because oftentimes you spoke of students that are already within the industry itself, or those who are aspiring to go on to do doctoral work. But do you do any work with our career services by way of placement? You know, everyone's saying, well, what's in it for me? I've invested, I've completed the program, and the end result is which particular industry is really looking for, standing in line to hire Penn State Harrisburg criminal justice master's degree students.
Yes. We have worked, Mitchell, with career services in the past, but quite frankly, when our students graduate, they tend to have standing offers ready to go. Now, whether or not a student wishes to go into some of those options that are available to them, or those opportunities that are available to them, or they wish to strike out and pursue something else completely different, is certainly their choice. But again, the internship experience for those pre-service students has been invaluable. Remember, I think it's probably only about a quarter to a third of the MACJ students who have no experience in the field at all, or do not want to go on.
Right.
So they're just looking at this sort of as their last degree, but they haven't yet worked in the field. So it's a fairly small number. And those are the students that we've always tried to push toward the internship experience. We've always tried to get them involved with networking with agencies in the area, or in an area where they're from and want to return to. We've become familiar just in the past few years with more of the agencies in northern New Jersey and New York City, because we've gotten a number of students from that area. And those opportunities are plentiful for students, but sometimes they don't know where to look. So that's where we do bring in career services and even some of the faculty members' own personal references and backgrounds. We're more than happy to try and advocate on behalf of a student for employment. But really, in the time I've been here, it hasn't become an issue. Those students do have options available to them. Sometimes they wish to relocate, or to maybe even go outside sort of the traditional parameters of criminal justice, which is a growing area. Data analytics, the private sector in terms of private loss prevention, things like that. Those opportunities are growing exponentially, and so are the salaries.
Wow.
And so sometimes we think that the traditional criminal justice system is where students should be focused, but the opportunities in the insurance industry and the retail merchant industries and in data analytics are, sort of growing beyond the opportunities within the criminal justice system itself. So the student that has a little initiative to explore those options available to them can be rewarded handsomely, both in terms of opportunity and by salary.
Yeah, great. That actually serves as a prelude into my next question in terms of who are we drawing? There's this real big talk about cybersecurity, as you just alluded to, and I always think where most people will think when you think about the field of criminal justice, that it's traditional law enforcement.
Right.
So with that being said, are we seeing this hybrid model or a cross-pollination where if you had a pie chart and you were to say, here are the top 5 areas where students with a background in X or Y that's being drawn to this field of criminal justice, where are they coming from and who are we drawing to the program?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I think, criminal justice will always have that core of law enforcement and corrections and those who work with adjudicated delinquents, things like that. But that core is shrinking. And the other opportunities for example, students with an interest in Homeland Security issues. At least here at Penn State, when I first got here, that wasn't a program. That wasn't something that was talked about. It was certainly a field and a growing field, but we hadn't tapped into it at Penn State yet. And now that we have, we're seeing a good number of those students come from that traditional core of criminal justice and go toward Homeland Security. The number of students minoring in Homeland Security that are criminal justice majors at the undergraduate level is growing probably faster than any other segment.
Wow.
We are also finding a lot more students, and I'm thinking back to those that have gone through the program and done some, what I would consider non-traditional kinds of majors or concentrations, electives, sort of the emergency management aspect. We have had students, quite a few, who have taken elective courses in, for example, health education, to planning for emergency response. So it's all sort of blending together, Mitchell, in a way. You know, you have the criminal justice component, the Homeland Security component, the public health and safety component, all coming together. And the great thing is here, we have that. We have that in health education. We have that in health administration within our own School of Public Affairs. Public health at Penn State Hershey. They have a master's in public health there that students can take courses there. And the medical school is only 10 minutes away. All of those different areas, adult education, all of these areas that sort of have the umbrella term safety and well-being under them. That's where, you know, Homeland Security and law enforcement and health, all those things. I think if there's any true growth area outside the core of criminal justice, it's that. It's, you know, how can we make society more healthy overall? How can we partner with the private sector to ensure these things happen? As you know, the 3 Mile Island is very close to our campus, and Exelon works with a number of our graduates in Homeland Security and the MACJ for things like perimeter security and for disaster planning and things of that nature. So I really think that our students are still being drawn with similar interests, but those interests are now being defined by a larger awareness of safety is not just keeping the streets of a neighborhood safe, but it's a global issue, and there are many different threats and situations that have to be accounted for, not just terrorism, but also natural disasters and natural disasters that emanate from man-made disasters, all of those different things, and they bring together different sectors, public health, education, Homeland Security, and criminal justice.
Okay. One more question and then we'll wrap it up. I'm going to close on this note. What's your vision for the MACJ program over the next 5 years? As the newly minted program coordinator,
yes.
What's the goal over the next 5 years?
Well, on the side of preparing students for scholarly careers, we want to keep our trajectory on that. I think that's been our strength. That's been what we've been noted for, and we just want to keep that going. On the other side, you know, in the years that I've been here, I think if there's anything that we could improve upon as a program, it is our collaboration and networking with agencies locally and statewide, as well as federally, and our networking with professionals and educators in those other areas. You know, I mentioned the Master of Public Health at Penn State Hershey. That's been an extremely well-regarded program, but we have not been able to build the kinds of bridges with those programs that I think we'd like to, because it will benefit our students in the end. The more opportunities, the more exposure our students have to all that encompasses public safety will certainly make them more aware of the kinds of things they can do with their degree, and also you know, open their minds a little bit to the direction that the field is taking, because it is evolving. It's not the criminal justice degree that I got so many years ago.
Right.
It is a completely different field now. It is acting locally but thinking globally, whereas before that really was not the case. And students have to have that forward-looking perspective. They have to know what the issues are of the day, but also be able to adapt to what's going to come down the road. And that will always change in this field. This is what I think makes it a great discipline to study, because what we learned 20 years ago is different from what students are learning now, and will be different from what students in 20 years learn. It's a continually evolving and dynamic field. So it's not something that, you know, is on the books and that's always the way it's going to be.
Sure.
There's always a new challenge and a new opportunity to take.
Excellent. On that note, we're going to close the show. I want to thank again Dr. Don Hummer, the program coordinator for the master's degree in criminal justice, Master's of Arts in Criminal Justice here at Penn State Harrisburg. I'm Mitchell Patterson, and if you have further need or inquiries, you can always send us an email or email Dr. Don Hummer. It's directly on his website or homepage at Penn State Harrisburg. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you again.